Hello and welcome to our 10th Conversation to Connect. Let's get real, powered by Exceptional Connections. I'm CyndiONeill-Dady, the founder and chief connector at Exceptional Connections since 2009. We're celebrating 11 years this August. Woohoo!
Wow.
So at Exceptional Connections, we offer intentional and innovative solutions to boost your business. And each week I nominate a different member of our community to be able to have a meaningful conversation with. So be sure to make yourself comfortable, get a cup of tea or a beverage of your choice, and take some notes. We're going to be opening up the conversation around the 45-minute mark, and love to have you engage with us to ask questions, share your ahas or epiphanies from this thought-provoking conversation. So the inspiration of our weekly conversations to connect, let's get real talks, is to create purposeful conversations. So we desire to be relevant during these challenging and uncertain times and to support our community to make an impact in the world and stay connected. Our conversation to connect today is with Molly Klipp. She is from the Linwood, Washington area, but today it's a treat. She is joining us from Eastern Washington. They have a condo in Chelan. So Molly's in her happy place, right, Molly?
I am. You can see my picture in the back.
Yeah,
That's where I am.
I'm thank you for letting us come with you vicariously and see the beautiful background. So today we're going to be talking about sage advice to take us into the new normal. So it is my pleasure to invite the amazing Molly Klipp to share with us some highlights about her background and journey and share some musings with us today. So take it away, Molly.
Well, just a little bit about myself. I am the sole owner, proprietor, artist, instructor at Carefree Beauty Permanent Makeup with 2 locations in Linwood and in Arlington, Washington. I have been practicing permanent cosmetics for over 6 years now, and I specialize in microblading, soft powder brows, eyeliners, lips, and also scalp micropigmentation. I also teach a 100-hour fundamental class for people that are interested in getting started in permanent cosmetics business. I teach them how to build it and how to sustain it. I have 30 years of being a franchise owner with Alouette Cosmetics. I started doing it in Rochester, New York, and moved out to Seattle in 1985 and built that business to a multi-million-dollar business in 30-year period of time. Got to travel the world with Alouette, raised 4 beautiful kids, and have 3 grandsons, which is fun, always playing with them. I got asked to be a SPCP, which is Society of Permanent Cosmetics Professionals board member. So I am the secretary and the quarterly editor for their quarterly magazine that goes out, and I just got elected to be on a 2nd term for that. I've co-authored a couple of books. One of them, Image Power, for makeup tips and tutorials, and also a mom entrepreneur of how to run a business your family will love. So I've always been a family person, I've been an entrepreneur at heart. That's my gig. That's what I like to do. So my biggest thing, I was on a BNI presentation this morning, and they said, what's your thing that makes you successful? I'm willing to reinvent myself. That's probably my biggest claim to fame. I'm willing to reinvent myself and figure out what's the next best thing. So there you go, Cyndi.
Thank you. Well, which is so important these days, right? We have to really be able to be resilient and be willing to be flexible and reinvent ourselves in changing times. And really, that's the inspiration for our talk today, right? So,
Yep.
Molly and I were musing about, what can we talk about that's pertinent, so to be a contribution to our communities, because that's near and dear to both of our hearts. Before we move on, I just want to share that I've known this amazing lady for 13 years. It's been a blessing. And we first met at a networking group and just have had different opportunities to work together over the years. And I just admire her so much, adore her, and I'm so grateful to have her on our conversation to connect today. So,
well, I feel the same about you, Cyndi.
Thank you, Molly. You're the best. So Molly was, we put together this talk to, as we said, be a contribution. And I just want to kind of read the description because I think it'll set the stage for our conversation today. So with COVID-19 pandemic taking our thoughts and some of our paychecks, we've had to rethink, reinvent, and revisit what we offer to others. It's our services. Is our service still pertinent when we want to basically discover, or on this journey, be relevant at the end of this. And so, are you going to be able to make a living with what you've done in the past? That's a great question, right? Or what we've done in the past is still going to be of value to those, or do we need to build other skills to set us up for success in the future? So all of this is encompassed in our talk. And again, we are in for a treat. Molly has 3 gold nuggets born out of her vast experiences to discuss with us today. So get us started, Molly.
Well, one of the first things we talked about is before you can move into the future with any shifts that you're going to do, you have to re-examine your past.
Yes.
Because we all have backgrounds, right? We have backgrounds, we have skills that we've learned in past jobs that we've had that we might not necessarily think might be relevant to our future, but it's very important what we learned in our past, because it's what our past that defines us and helps us to move forward, if that makes sense, right?
Yeah, beautifully said. It's true.
So when we were talking about this, we started thinking about stories of, my past. And so at 16 years old, I was, needed a job, and I became a waitress at a country snack shop. Okay. And I loved that job. It was so fun. I had never done any kind of customer service before. I was a student. And I really think that, my 2 oldest kids actually became waitresses and servers, because I think it's the best customer service thing to teach you how to work with people. But anyway, so going back to all this stuff, what I learned from that job when I thought about it was I loved, customer service in waitressing. You get tips because when you're good, you get tips, right? So,
Right.
I mean, it's an automatic, okay, if I'm better at customer service, then I get a tip, right? But you can't determine how big that tip is going to be, because based on the person's financial, maybe their financial. Now, again, at 16, I didn't connect with all this. I think about it later, but they didn't necessarily know. I didn't know how much they were going to tip me. So it didn't become about the amount of the tip I would get. It became about how can I please them? How can I make them feel special? How can I make them know that I appreciate them when they came in? And I worked mornings, so we had a lot of regulars coming in, and it was so nice that they would come in and they would ask me, they want my service. Okay, we want Molly. They'd sit in my section to make sure they got me. And that just, at 16 years old, that was a very good lesson. Now I look at it as to, if I do service, then people are pleased, and that makes me happy.
Right.
Right.
Well, you were very wise at a very young age, because, to be able to put that together and also have that motivation intrinsically, it wasn't just extrinsically getting the money and saying, I like that person, or I want to do this for more money. For you, you were doing it for the joy of being able to be of service to people.
Yeah.
Which is a wonderful way to start your journey. So you had an opportunity when you were 16 to be a waitress, and then kind of observe that. So tell us more about your journey in
well, the next chapter. So I was going through high school, and so I went right from high school. I didn't go to college, so I went right from high school to a legal secretarial job, and was making $90 a week. Okay, woo. But I was brand new in this job.
Sure.
And you got to learn from the bottom. And so the satisfaction, when I worked for 7 years in that field, and what I discovered about myself in that is that I like working hard, and I also like challenging myself all the time. So I was one of those ones that would be very willing to work through a lunch hour, work late, because if it was going to get the brief out and make the attorney happy, I wanted to do it. So I got known in the office as the one who got things done. So when when a secretary went on vacation in the office, I would take on her attorney's work as well and do my attorney's work and their attorney's work. And I loved it. I mean, it was just like, okay, this is good. How can I make them? How can I please them? How can I do this? You know, and I was devastated if I screwed up. And then when I went on vacation, I had hired 2 Kelly girls to take my place. And I honestly, through all that time, thought that was normal. Okay. I thought everybody did that. And it wasn't until years later that I found out that is not normal. Yeah. But that's probably why I was an entrepreneur, because I figured out very quickly that was the last job I had before I started working for myself. Right. And I remember after I started working for myself, saying to myself, why would I go work for somebody else when I can make double the amount of money in half the amount of time? Yes. And that was my end of working for somebody else.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And really, you were over delivering. Right?
Yeah.
And so that's something employers can't teach their employees.
No.
That's something you have to learn. And you learned that at a very young age, and you took that into your that's really who formed how, you formed yourself, and then also made you unemployable.
Exactly. I laugh because, I am unemployable, because if I worked for somebody else, I'd be telling them what to do in the first 10 minutes and it wouldn't be pretty.
Yeah. Well, but I mean, really, the definition of an entrepreneur is they don't need to be told what to do, right? That's the beauty of it, is if you have that entrepreneurial mindset, you have to be self-motivated. Yeah. Because there's nobody to tell me what to do, except my husband, of course, but, in my business. So I have to be self-motivating. So I love that. Okay. So you started as a waitress, legal secretary, traditional jobs that taught you the skills, that gave you the kind of the mindset and foundation. Right. And now take us into your entrepreneurial pursuits.
So then I got recruited into Alouette Cosmetics when I was back in New York. And I am the last person that you would ever think would ever do sales, because I came from a family that they thought sales was a dirty word. So, my brother's a doctor, my sister's a master's in nursing, the other sister is an accountant, the other one's a drafting engineer, my mom was a nurse, my dad was a drafting engineer. I'm the only one that didn't go to college. And truly, when I was younger, I thought I was the stupid one. So because I didn't go to college. Now, it's not what they put on me, it's what I put on myself. Mm-hmm. So when I got into sales, my 2 uncles were multimillionaires from sales. But if I asked my mom what they did, the comment was, he sells golf balls and he lies and cheats, and that's how he does sales. And that was my mentality of what salespeople were. Right. So it was so outside of the realm. But what I learned when I became a sales rep, and it was makeup. I love makeup. Okay, it's just, all right. That's my thing. I love that. But what I learned from that job, I had a really good trainer. I mean, it really makes a difference who your mentor is, and I had a really good one. And she taught me, she goes, understand it's what you say and how you say it. And so the words that I learned to sell were not my words at all. They were totally the words I was taught, I memorized, and I practiced. Yes. And then they became my own. Yes. And that's the skill set. So
it takes.
Learning to, the mistakes, right? So learning to overcome the objections, learning how to talk to people. Yes. And then it got to the point of selling isn't about selling. Selling is about fulfilling a need of other people. So the goal is how do I fulfill that need? Right. And that's people skills. I mean, that's where we roll into, what's the second nugget, right?
Right. So what I'm hearing from you is, skills plus mindset equals success, right? There's a formula for this. And a lot of people, especially younger kids that don't have maybe the background that gave them the foundation that you have to learn it along the way. But there's nothing wrong with having a script, right? It just, you have to practice it until it's natural. And that's what a lot of people forget about. They're saying, oh, I don't want to be stiff. Well, you have to be stiff before you can be natural and have it just roll off your tongue.
I'll never forget being on the phone with my mentor at the very beginning. And people don't believe this of me now, but I can literally visualize myself in my mother's kitchen talking. Remember those corded phones, right? Yes. And I'm talking to my mentor.
Pull it, right?
And Yeah, that pulling up, right? And she's giving me these perfect words, and I'm writing them all down. And she's giving me these perfect words, and I literally put my head on my hands, and
Yeah.
I cried and said, I will never be able to sound like that. I will never be able to sound like that. I will never be as good as her. And I remember feeling that at that moment. But then you have to make the decision going, yeah, I can learn this. I can learn this. I can do this.
Right. Which is again a mindset shift that allows you to, to visualize yourself doing the thing that you thought you couldn't do.
Right.
So one of the things I want to say before we move on is,
Yep.
because when you and I spoke, a couple days ago about this
Right.
topic, and we're lining out like really our passion for being able to share with people, you need to bring your past into the present.
Yep.
So the things that you've learned being a waitress and legal secretary and with your, Alouette business and your Carefree Beauty, all those things make you the amazing Molly that you are, right? Those skills, it's not just, oh yeah, a lot of us tend to compartmentalize our lives and say that was the old me. And now this is me today, the, 2.20 version.
Yeah.
version. But it's so important to be bringing yourself into the present, to bring the skills that you've learned into the present and value them, value what you've learned from them. From those lessons. And some things may not have been worked out beautifully and pretty, but it still it serves its purpose, right?
Well, exactly. And it's like the training and the self, I never went to college, but I had a really good friend of mine who is a professor at the University of Washington. And I remember him and I were at a network meeting. He had never been involved in network sales at all. And we went to this one. This was 25 years ago. And I remember him saying to me as we walked away, because he would ask me, how do you say this? What do you do? How do you say this? And I told him, now this guy I have such respect for. He's a PhD, in computer, unbelievably brilliant man. And he said to me, he says, Molly, he says, you might not have a college degree, but you have a PhD in marketing. You just don't have it on paper. And I remember at that moment, I realized going, okay,
Yes.
I got a School of Hard Knocks, went to all the seminars. My car was for a lot of us, our car was our university. We were listening all the time and, to different tapes, John Maxwell, Zig Ziglar. I mean, all these people, the best, Jim Rohn, the best of the best. And you listen and they make it your own.
Yes. Well, I'm so glad you were able to come to that conclusion, because a lot of people think of themselves like, I didn't go to college, I didn't do the traditional route, I'm, less than or missing out or whatever, but it's just a different pathway. And we're all called to different pathways. And, I'm so glad you were able to embrace that. So, we're talking about our different career choices and how they've made us who they are today. And so, one thing that comes to mind for me is I was a teller and worked my way up to new accounts at Republic Federal Savings and Loan in California. When I was, I was in high school and going to college at the time. And I remember, like you, wanting to please my customers and wanting to be of service to them and wanting to be a resource. So I made sure that I knew the latest and greatest of what the rates were and what's going on and how to be able to set up an account so that I didn't have to keep, running over and asking my boss. And so I would have people, like you, who would wait in line just to talk to me, just to have me set up their accounts or just to ask me a question. So, it's interesting because I look back at my career as well. And I think, okay, I wanted to be of service to people at a very young age as well. And I think that's, a good thing to be able to instill in our kids is it's okay to, wherever you start is perfect, because it's going to help you get where you need to go. And it may not be related. I ended up not having a career in banking. I could have very easily, because it was offered to me at the time. But, those skills have served me over the years, being an advocate of learning skills and being able to embrace the ones that we've had in the past. So what do you think, Molly, is the most underrated skill? This
is good. This is good because there was a quote you gave me, and it said, the challenge, let me see if I can do this with my glasses on. The challenge that many people face when interacting with others is they lack the necessary interpersonal skills and needed to be effective. And that's from Robert Lucas.
Yes.
And it's people skills.
Yep.
It's people skills. You know, to be successful, you have to have good people skills. And that isn't necessarily innate. I know a lot of people, you know, when they meet me and they talk to me, I had somebody I was talking to the other day, she goes, oh, you intimidate me so much, because I'm like, why? You know, it's like, I had to learn all this stuff right from the get-go. This was not who I am today, is not the person who I started with.
Right.
You know, it was continuing to learning skills, learning to be a better person, learning how to talk. I remember one of the things I used to train people, because how do you start a conversation with somebody? How do you get to connect with people? And the number one thing is ask questions. People love talking about themselves. And
It's true.
but they do. I mean, we really do. And
that's human nature, right?
it is human nature, and it's there's nothing wrong with it.
No.
But I am fascinated by people and where they started and you're the same way, Cyndi. So it's like, we love talking to people and finding out about them. So I used to teach my salespeople in Alouette when I was the president. I used to say, there's 4 questions you can ask somebody when you meet them, and you'll find out anything you want to know. And I say, you ask them, how do you know the hostess? So the person who introduced them to you, how do you know this person? Okay. Second question is, are you married or have any children? And then, do you live here, or where are you originally from? And then the other question is, what's your job? Where do you work? Those 4 questions, and you don't necessarily get to all 4, but those 4 questions pretty much give you a roundabout thing about the interest of the people.
Yes.
And then once you find out a common bond as
Right.
to what, that you have a commonality to them, then you can start this whole conversation.
Yeah.
It really is simple. I mean, it's not complicated. Creating these, that's easy.
It's a great formula for creating rapport and trust, right?
Yes.
Because you're right. First and foremost, when you connect with someone, you discover what they're up to, what's going on, and you listen intently, which is part of our connection circle that we teach at Acceptable Connections.
Yeah.
The important part of that is to care, right? You really genuinely care and listen.
You really want to know.
Yeah, you really want to know. You're not just like, okay, I know where they're from. I know if they're married or they have kids or not. So, what's so interesting about the second point and the skill sets and how important people skills are is that, gosh, I don't have this study on the tip of my tongue, but there was college students that were asked, what do you think is the most important skill that you need to learn? And I was amazed at like 85% of them said technical skills. When in reality, when they've done studies, it's actually flipped, where about 85-90% is interpersonal or people skills. That's what's going to get you further. That's what's going to get you that interview, right, in the door. So the difference between somebody who's highly qualified and somebody who has good people skills, the guy that has, or woman that has good people skills, usually gets the job. Even if
when I had employees. When I had employees in my Alouette, I remember thinking to myself, I don't care how much you know, I can teach you that. I need to know how you treat people. And when the people who work for me, I said, your number one job is to understand that every consultant that's underneath you pays your paycheck. They pay you. So how you treat them will determine what your paycheck is going to be. Because that's customer service, is making sure who you realize who the customer is.
Right. So, and also I'm hearing you say being coachable too. So being kind, customer service, caring, genuinely caring, and then being coachable as well.
It's just not about dollars and cents. When you find out enough information about them, you can sell to them. I mean, that was one of the things I learned as I was going along is that, if you learn sales skills, right? And we were talking about the sales maven, Nikki Rauch is probably one of the best ones that I've ever seen on it. And because she teaches a very natural way of
Yeah.
talking to people, just what we're talking about. I mean,
Yeah.
when I met her, when she first got started, her and I talked, and we were laughing because, like, oh my gosh, we do everything the same. This is how we communicate.
Yes.
But what it does is that if you're interested enough about the people that you're with, your clients, customers, anybody you meet, and you're interested about their needs, you'll be able to find out how you can fill that need. You know, it's easy to come up with a conversation. When women find out I'm in the beauty industry, there's always asking me questions about hair, makeup, you know, brows. And then when they find I do permanent makeup, they're like, oh my gosh, you know, I mean, in fact, a lady today said to me, she goes, the reason why I look so good in my Zoom calls is because I got my permanent eyeliner, my permanent brows done by Molly. Okay. So, I mean, those are some of the things that, when you find out their needs, and then you can help them fill it. You know, that's really going to be the key.
Right. Or find it, or be a resource for others to be able to refer them to others as well. So, and then
in fact, it's like,
that's how
no,
you build, you know, what do they call it? Like brownie points in that relationship.
Well, referral partners, you know, affiliates, I mean, whatever you want to call it. It was funny. My husband was talking to my daughter the other day, and he goes, Mom knows everybody. He says, she knows everybody. So she'll connect you to anybody you need to know. So I said, I only hang around smart people. Okay. I only hang around smart people who are smarter than me, that can teach me what I need to know.
That's a beautiful formula. It's true. It's true. It's being, they say you are the sum total of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And that's always been a guiding principle for me as well.
Well, you know, years ago, we used to say, you don't hang around the barnyard with the turkeys if you want to soar with the eagles. I took that to heart.
I love it.
Took that to heart.
That's a great one. That's a flip side of the other one. That's beautiful. So when people are asked what the number one skill is, so, you know, again, a lot of times they say it's technical skills, but interpersonal people skills will get you further. So there's a great quote by Simon Sinek that I love, and I thought I'd share. So 100% of customers are people, right? 100% of employees are people. If you don't understand people, you don't understand business. And I love that. It's so true. You really do have to understand people, and customer service, that's why it's so critical. And so we talked about the importance of having this conversation and including this in the sage advice to move into the new normal, because there's going to be a lot of things that are going to change on the other side of this that we don't even know. We can't even imagine.
Right.
And, you know, I kind of hate to say new normal, because we don't really know that into the future, we could say too, right? You know, the unknown. But the things we do know are we are humans. And as humans, you know, like we've talked about, we have this innate need to be in connection with each other. We have a desire to be heard, to be seen, to be witnessed. And, you know, I think everything we've talked about just brilliantly sets the stage for what we're walking into. So the one thing we can do, we may not know exactly what technical skills we need, and we can hone up on our skills so we can be have a better foundation. But the one thing we do know is being of service to people and helping them and listening to them will never go out of style.
Never. You will always be able to get a job, whatever it's going to be, as long as you can do that. If you can help other people get what they want, you know, if you can help them and know that you're helping them, and it's not just about you, because it'll always come back to you, but it's like helping them, you can get any job, because there's going to be tons of stuff. We'll get into that in the third nugget, but it's like there's going to be tons of opportunities for you. And this pandemic really was this big, you know, telescope, if you want for a better word, that really zeroed in on saying these are some of the changes that, you know, we have to make now. But there's different things in your life that happen. I mean, when I sold the franchise, you know, after being in the business for 30 years and switched careers, you know, that was a huge shift of what I needed to do. And I was 58 years old when I did it. So, you know, it doesn't necessarily, age doesn't mean anything. I mean, you can shift at any time. You know, with the Kentucky Fried Chicken, right? He was 67 years old when he started KFC, you know,
right.
and then took it. So
Ray Kroc of McDonald's as well. So yeah, that's encouraging for us late bloomers, right? But Molly, let's talk about that. Let's talk, because I think that's one piece I don't want to miss in this conversation, just because I know you and your journey.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about listening to yourself. And because you had a very successful franchise,
Mm-hmm.
and so tell me a little bit about that transition where you made the choice to sell it and then move on to another career. Did you have the permanent makeup in place at the time, or tell me more
I
about
had I I I I I pray a lot. Okay. And I knew in my heart that I needed to shift.
that?
There was some things happening in the company that they were shifting in ways that I didn't want to go.
Okay.
And I knew I needed to find something different. I just didn't know what it was going to be.
Right.
And I remember getting a message, and I wrote it down. I had it in front of my computer, so I looked at it every day, and it said, gather information, the way will be shown. And I knew that there were things that I had to have. I knew I had to be an entrepreneur. I knew, because I knew I could get a job at any sales organization with any direct sales company or network company. I could have gotten a job doing that, but I didn't. I liked my freedom. I liked being able to call my hours. I like to be able to travel. I like to be able to do what I want to do. And when I got introduced to permanent makeup, I literally turned it down a number of times. I have to say, it wasn't just, oh yeah, I'm going to do it. I had had my own done 15 years ago. And the lady who introduced it to me kept saying, you should do this, you should do this, you should do this. But she was not doing it as a full-time career. And I'm the breadwinner. I was the main breadwinner in the family. So I knew I had to have a certain income level in order to be able to shift careers. So she wasn't making that much money. So I just thought, oh, you can't do it. But she then, bless her, she introduced me to someone who was making twice as much money as I was. And I'm like, oh. And it's funny, Penny and I became really, really good friends. And she said she'd never had a student in her class ask the questions I asked. Because my questions were business questions. They were,
Yeah.
so how many appointments do you have a day? How often how many days a week do you, I was numbers. It wasn't about numbers. I wanted to know numbers. And as soon as I knew all the numbers, then it was like, okay, I can do this full time. So it was 2014 when I got certified to be a permanent cosmetics artist. I did it part-time for a year. And I gave myself, I sold the franchise in March of 2015 and gave myself 1 year to get back up to the 6 figures that I was used to making. And I did it in 11 months. But I have to say, it was with the skills that I learned in Alouette. It was the things that I learned in the previous business of how to build and how to market and what to do. And granted, yes, and I had a lot of smart people around me. I did. I had a lot of advocates like Cyndi, because she was there when I started it and shifted gears. It was a scary time. It was a scary time, but I had a husband in my back, just rooting me on. You do it. You do it. I know you can do it. And it was funny, about 5 months after I started doing this full time, he's like, oh, I like you way better now.
Oh, I love that.
I was relaxed.
I love that.
Relaxed. I loved doing what I do. I still get to talk to people. I still get to really enjoy working on people. I still get to make them beautiful. And I love that part.
Right. I love that. And I have seen that transformation in you. And I remember you and I, after a networking meeting, sitting in your driveway during this time when you were making this transition. And it's scary when you leave something and sometimes you don't have something to go to. But Molly, I just want to share with our listeners again what you said. You were encouraged, kind of, you felt this intuitively, to gather information and the way will be shown. And that, my instinct is that gave you comfort, right? And that gave you the strength to be able to move into the next season of your life, even though that next step, as we talk about taking that leap of faith, was not there.
Nope. And we even went a further step. We told the company my last day would be March 31st of 2015. We didn't have a buyer. And I said, I don't know what you're going to do. I said, but I'm done. As of 3 weeks before we closed our doors, the company said, we'll buy you out. So yeah,
because you had that faith. You had that strength, that you had that clarity, right?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I love that. I have a similar, I won't tell the whole story because I really want to be able to focus on your story and the other point, the gold nugget that you have. But I have a similar kind of phrase for me, it was it's a God thing, where God was telling me when I was leaving homeschooling and moving to entrepreneurship, being a relationship marketing strategist when I first met you. So moving from one world of homeschooling my
Yeah.
kids in that community. And God said to me, I have prepared you for the future that you're about to walk into. And that's what gave me the
Oh, wow.
courage to
Yep.
leave homeschooling and teaching Spanish for 10 years. And that's how I supported myself during the time of homeschooling my kids, to entrepreneurship. So if I hadn't had that and had the faith and this, belief that, okay, God's got my back, I just need
Yep.
to, be strong. So I think it's important. The whole point really that I wanted to kind of take a moment to focus on here is listening to yourself, listening to your intuition, listening to your gut, listening to God, however universe, whatever works for you. But listening to that still small voice will help us to be able to navigate the next step. And that's what we're all walking in right now. What is the next step, right? On the other
Right.
side of,
And there's
right?
always going to be something. This COVID pandemic is just
Whatever.
one thing.
It
It
is.
happens to put the spotlight on everybody.
That's the
But
focus right now.
yeah, but we all have those moments in our life.
Yes.
Everybody does.
Yes.
Just not all at the same time like this time.
Yeah, we do. And so I love that. So I just wanted to kind of, the segue here also is the importance of following your passion. So, in knowing you and hearing your story a little bit, there comes a time where things that we've done in the past, they give us joy, they give us energy, they give us, and then that same thing could drain us, right? So there's seasons. And so I love that you're listening to yourself, not only watching what was going on with the company, because that's important too, but also how you were responding to that.
Right.
And so following your passion is a beautiful way to know what direction to go in as well. And whether it's draining your energy or, or giving you
giving me
inspiration.
energy.
Right.
Right.
So, what do you think the greatest obstacle for people having, to success in not having people skills? I don't know if that's a good way to say it, but
The biggest obstacle is thinking that it's natural. I
yes.
think the biggest thing that people think that, oh, she's got it, I don't, because that's not true. It's a skill. We were talking today. Zig Ziglar used to say, he used to have this. He would say, write down all the attributes that you think you have to have in order to be successful. And it would be hard work, discipline, there was this whole list we used to make. And he went down the list and he'd sit there and go, so tell me, is this a skill or an attitude? Is this a skill or an attitude? And everything was an attitude to learn the skill, right? So you can learn anything. You can learn to surf. You can learn to paddleboard. You can learn anything you want to learn. I learned how to fly a plane because I wanted to. That was just when I turned 50, I took lessons. I want to learn how to fly a plane.
Wow.
Do I fly a plane? No. And I never finished certification because I was two solo pilots and a certificate away from it because I found out my oldest daughter was pregnant with my first grandson and I said, I'm done. I'm done. And John says, do you ever want to go back to it? I said, no, because it wasn't about the certification. It was about learning it. If I had to in an emergency, I could fly a plane. I like that idea.
Well,
so
our priorities change in life, right?
They do. They change. And so, going on with that, you're like to, with the skill levels you have, and I guess that's the biggest thing I'd say in this particular nugget is that do not sell yourself short. Don't think, oh, she can do it, but I can't, or he can do it, I can't. It's how bad do you want it? How bad do you want it? What do you want it? What do you want to do? What do you want to shift? How important is it to you?
Right.
Because anything's possible.
Yes. That's a beautiful segue into our third nugget. Yes. So what can we do remotely in these challenging times to create a living for ourselves?
So most of you know that I got shut down as of March 16th. Or March 17th was the day that I couldn't work. So I've been out of work for 10 weeks. And this is the most time I've had since my two oldest, who are now 39 and 38, were babies. So, one of the things I knew was I had to stay relevant. You got to stay top of mind for people, for them to say, oh yeah, I want to go to Molly to get permanent makeup done. So 2 years ago, 3 years ago, probably longer ago, people kept saying to me, everybody I've heard, all the classes you went to and the networks meeting, everybody's saying, you got to do video, you got to do video, you got to do video. Well, I'm not afraid of video, never have been, but I just hadn't done it. I just hadn't done it. And so that was my number one thing of, okay, I'm done. I'm doing video. I'm going to get videos done. I had a whole Did You Know series that I wanted to put together. I ordered banners for my background. I started doing, so I'm sitting here going, how do I remain relevant? And one of the biggest things that I would have my clients, because they knew my background about being a makeup artist, they would ask me questions. Well, how should I do my eyeshadow? What mascara would you recommend? What skincare you recommend? How can I make my skin look like yours? I mean, all the stuff I would get asked. And so I started doing a newsletter about 1.5 years ago. And every month, whoever wants to be on my newsletter, and I have it on my website. So if anybody wants to sign up for my newsletter, you just go to my website, you can sign up for it. And I send out beauty tips that are relevant to people, that are in my sphere. And there's so many classes that I took along the way that really had nothing to do with I was going to teach it. It was all about I needed to learn it. So I took classes on color analysis because I needed to know what colors I was supposed to wear. I learned style expression, what style works best for me. What kind of earrings should I wear? What hairstyle should I have? I learned how to accessorize. I learned how to do makeup for all the different, I did all of that because I wanted to know. And then what I did is that I learned a long time ago is if I teach it, I learn it better.
Yeah.
Every time I told my pilot instructor, I said, if I could just teach people how to fly, I'd do better. He kind of laughed. I'm like, I don't think that's ever happening. But
True.
So when you learn it better when you're teaching it. So when this shift happened, I thought, okay, now I'm going to start doing these videos. So I started putting together video tutorials I did baby boomers makeup. Part 1 and part 2. I have gotten so much response. So I started a YouTube channel, for, beauty tips for carefree beauty. And not just putting in permanent makeup, but, throwing in the things of my past that I know. Did a color analysis tutorial. I did an accessorizing tutorial, earring choices tutorial. If I have more time off, I have a 10 articles of clothing into 35 different outfits. I got to get that one done. I haven't got that one done yet. I have it pieced.
Hurry, Molly.
I know. I'm like, I got to get that one done. But then I started all these YouTube, the Did You Know series on Did You Know, you don't have to shave your eyebrows. And I've got 7 of those done now. And I hired a coach. I said, all right, this is the time to hire a coach to teach me some of the stuff that I don't know. Teach me how the social media works. I know how to do social media. I know enough to be dangerous, but not enough to be effective. That's kind of where I was at. I knew to post, but I didn't know the analyticals of why to post and where to go. And what's the difference between a Facebook business page and a personal page and an Instagram page and a Facebook group page? And what are the difference of all those things? And how do you benefit? And just all this stuff.
Make your head spin, right?
Yes. And so I hired a young coach, Claire Jones, and she's laughing at me. Yeah, I know. Yay, Claire. And she's just laughing at me because I'm sitting there going, okay, all right, I can do that. Oh my gosh, that's so simple. And she's just laughing at me. I said, why? She goes, not everybody behaves like you. I said, I want to learn.
She's connecting the dots for you, right?
Yes.
Yes, I can relate. I can relate to the whole, knowing enough to be dangerous type of thing. Well, I have witnessed these videos being going out, the Did You Know videos, and I love them. I'm like a Molly Klipp junkie. I just love hearing, each video. I ring the bell and the whole bit so I can get your next one. And you
just go to my Carefree Beauty Permanent Makeup group, and you can do notifications, and you'll get all my videos.
You do it so naturally. So great job. I mean, you never know that you were, well, a lot of it, I think, is you keep so busy. You didn't have time for it, right? And
No,
I can
no.
relate to that because,
Yeah.
through this transition here, I'd always talked about, and one of our listeners knows for sure, I've been talking about this for years. So, having in lieu of our live exceptional connections networking events, having virtual events.
Mhm.
And guess what? I'm doing it now.
Yep.
So it sometimes, the mother of necessity is that we just jump in and do it, and we get
Right.
better and
Kicking
better.
and screaming.
Kicking and
We do it.
screaming, and we get better and better every time, right? But
Yep.
here's the thing I think people need to remember. If I had never had that thought, let's just say it was 6, 7, 8 years ago, whatever,
Right.
I probably wouldn't be doing it now. But
Yeah.
because I had that thought, and thought, well,
Mhm.
I should do these videos. I know all this stuff. I love
Mhm.
this stuff, and I want to learn it better, so I want to teach it. If we didn't have that thought to begin with, sometimes that's the spark, and then we needed the opportunity.
And the opportunity, and here's another piece too, that with going back to your past, there were so many things that I didn't think, how do I say this right? I didn't think I thought what I knew, everybody knew. I thought that everybody knew how to accessorize. I thought everybody knew how to put makeup on, or I thought people knew how to market themselves. I thought they knew how to work with their kids. I thought they knew this stuff. And when I would talk to somebody and I'd sit there and they go, wow, I didn't know that. And I'm like, really? You didn't know that? And so here's the thing I'd say to you is,
Yeah,
if you are speaking to someone and they say to you, wow, I didn't know that, understand, not very many people do know. So if you're wondering what you could teach, think about what people say to you and say, oh, I didn't know that. Oh, that's a really good piece. That's your piece. That's your piece that you can help others with.
brilliant, brilliant clue. Because you're right. That's one of the things that I've thought about a lot too. And I thought, is it a confidence thing, or what is it that I have? And I'm thinking, no, I just think everybody knows it. So I
Everybody
don't
knows it.
think, well, it's not special. Why would I share it? Everybody knows this already. When you're right, we all know things that other people don't know that
Right.
can be of service to them. So
Yes.
I love that your tip about listening, like listening when people say, really? Oh, tell me more about that. Because
Mm-hmm.
they're probably not the only person that feels that way, right?
Nope. And the response to my videos is just showing it. I was talking to a lady over here and she goes, oh, I don't get on Facebook much. And then I told her the videos I'm doing. She goes, where are you? Where are you? Where are you? I got to find it.
I love it. That's beautiful. So before we wrap up here, I want to review 2 rules. So we all heard about the golden rule, right? Do
Mm-hmm.
unto others as you'd want them to do unto you. But in recent years, I've learned about, there's another rule out there, right? The platinum rule. So the
Mm-hmm.
platinum rule is do unto others as you would want them to do unto you.
Right.
Is that right? Did I get them mixed up again?
Yep. Yep. You got it.
So the difference is that, it's not what you'd want, it's what they would want, right?
Right.
And that's the bottom line for customer service. For customer service, we're not doing for people what we think we want, it's what
Yep.
they need. So
Right.
be able to ask, how can I best be of service to you? What do you need? What do
Mm-hmm.
you want? How can I deliver it in a way that meets your needs? And I think
And
that's
that's the
important.
and that's the sales questions. You got to know how to ask those questions.
Yes.
Because if I were to ask you, what do you need? You don't know. But I have to find out about your life, what's going on in your life, what's happening within you, to be able to find out if I can fulfill that need.
Yes. So in closing, I just thank you so much, Molly, for sharing your sage advice and wisdom with us on this conversation to connect today, and being able to help us to just take this journey of understanding our past and being able to bring it into the future, right? To be able to, so move the future into um, the past into the future. And then, I'm sorry, I lost my second point here. Interpersonal skills. the value of people skills and how important that is, and incorporating the questions, being able to listen, just the critical skill sets that take time to learn.
Yep.
We aren't born with people skills, most people.
No.
You acquire them, you learn them, and you want to learn the right thing too. You don't want to learn bad habits.
Right.
And then thirdly, really understanding how we can transition during these changing times and use the technology of the day to be able to continue to stay connected and stay relevant.
Exactly.
So any closing thoughts before you share with our listeners a little bit more about how to contact you?
I would just say anything is possible. So if there's something, whirling around in that brain of yours of going, I would like to ... start thinking about what would it take to get there. Think about the steps of what it would take to get there. When I started Carefree Beauty, I knew what I had to do. I mean, I knew that I had to have so many procedures per week. I knew what training I needed. I knew that I wasn't about to do something that was, I don't want to do things halfway. If I'm going to do anything, I'm going to be the best at it. And so, what dream do you have? Even if it's that little thing. And I've got other things in my head that I want to do yet. There's a book I want to write. There's things that are out there.
Another conversation.
There you go. I know.
I love it. So, taking baby steps is important.
Yep.
Giving yourself permission to dream is important. Paying attention to your intuition and discovering where your passion is that, are you getting energized or are you getting depleted by the thing you've been doing that, even though at a certain point, maybe it did energize you, but it may not be now. So that may be a little kind of nudge or a tap on the shoulder that it's time to think of other things and move on.
Well, and sometimes it's not a complete change. It may be a shift. I went from cosmetics to permanent cosmetics. It was just a shift.
Yeah. You stayed in the same realm. And then even now with doing videos, that's a shift as well, right?
Yep, it is.
It's drawing on things you've learned in the past that you're bringing to be of service and contribution to others. So
exactly.
I love that, Molly. I just adore you so much. I'm so grateful for this conversation. So ladies and gentlemen, whoever's listening here on the call today, as well as in the replay, you need to get a hold of Molly. So share with us, Molly, what's the best way for people to take advantage of your videos again and connect with you and maybe even be a client of Carefree Permanent Makeup?
Well, to get connected, best way to go into me, I'm in a number of places. I've got Instagram, Klipp, Molly-Klipp. I am on Facebook. You can go to my Facebook page, Carefree Beauty Permanent Makeup. I have a group which allows you to see all the videos and the did you knows. That's on that section. I do have a business page as well, but if you really want to be in the know, you want to be in the group session. You can also go to my website at www.carefree-beauty.com. Scroll down to the bottom and it'll get you you can sign up for my newsletter, which I send a monthly newsletter out for beauty tips. And that way you can stay totally connected of what's going on, any specials that are going on. I have 2 locations in Linwood and Arlington. And when I get to open and make women beautiful, we'll be able to do that. But even if you're a long way away, but you want to know more about permanent makeup, I will say, go to my Facebook group and you'll see the videos there. And then YouTube, I also have a YouTube channel of Molly-Klipp, and you'll see a Carefree Beauty. And I actually have some tutorials there of permanent makeup, how I do it.
Thank you, Molly, for all the ways you serve our community and your family and people who love you. We're just so grateful to have you part of our Exceptional Connections community and to know you. And thank you so much for this conversation. It's been really, really fun. So
well, thank you for inviting me, Cyndi. I appreciate it. And you are the best.
Oh, I appreciate you. So let's see, I'm trying to unmute. If anybody has any questions or want to enter into the conversation with us or ahas, love to have you join us. Some people need to unmute themselves because I'm not able to unmute you. So if you have anything you want to share with us or enter into our conversation, we'd love to have you join us.
Well, Molly, This is Gail. I just think you are such an inspiration, and I'm so enthralled with your energy. I mean, you never stop.
It's an
I
energizer
just,
bunny.
yeah, I have my family has a property management business, and I feel like I'm really, really good at customer service. Um, and I can, I usually get prospective tenants or even tenants that have a problem, and they come in and they are so unhappy with something not working, and by the time they leave the office, they're all smiling again. And because I just take the time, like you say, just to get to know them, and why they're so angry. And then I have other people that come in that want to rent and tell me their entire life. I don't even ask them to, but
Yep.
they just want me to know them and why they want to move into my apartments. And I mean, customer service is absolutely key to everything, to anything. I mean, when people can, like Cyndi says, know, like, and trust you, then I think we can go quite far. In my entrepreneurial side, um, my drunk monkey is just all over the place, and I I'm still trying
Don't
to
listen
break
to
through.
it.
I know. I'm trying to ignore her and try to get out of my comfort zone and call people. So I'm still working on that, but I'm closer today than I was yesterday.
Just keep in
So
mind
I just want to.
scripts. It's scripts. If you can do the customer service with what your people are, it's no different. It's no different.
Well, thank you. I'm working on it.
It's
It's a
just
job, but
something that'll help you, Gail, is if you remember that if you're successful in one thing, you can be successful in anything. Because what made you successful in your job you're in today, that same success will take you into whatever you decide you want to do. It's no different. So don't look at it as different. It's just a different it's a change.
it's a yeah.
That's a
Well,
great
I
reminder.
appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah.
Yep, you
You're
got it.
just wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank-
I'm no different than anybody else, let me tell you. I got to tell you.
Oh, okay.
She
Oh,
just jumps in the pool faster.
Yeah.
Swims longer, right?
yeah. Thank you, Molly, for just giving us a beautiful story of your journey. It's so beautiful to see your journey and to be able to take on what you learned and implement it into the next, chapter as, creating your multi-level, company to the next level. I was just, sometimes you never realize your journey until you go back and reflect. So listening to you reminded me 10 years ago, I used to be a preschool teacher. And, 10 years now, I run my, yes.
I didn't know that.
Yes, I used to work for Head Start, and it helped me raise my children at that time because, I had to put all my 3 kids in Head Start, and I couldn't have to pay for childcare as a
Sure.
single parent. And now just listening to your story, it reminded me, made me go back. I'm like, oh my, I do have a lot of skills. I had early child development skills, parent skills that I
Yep.
could definitely implement them into my, my coaching business right now, help moms who need, that little shift. You brought in that thing that even I didn't think about. I can help moms find that inner
Yep.
peace and self-love because I went back into that journey, how it's like to be a single parent and run a business. I mean, going to school and taking your children to childcare and coming home tired with working with the kids and still run a family. So
That's your
thank you.
best. That's the best thing you can offer people is your experience, right?
Yes, yes. And I also love what you said, that everybody wants to be heard and listened to. And it's so true. If we just stop and listen, and we have given them permission just to evolve and to take on the next stage. And we all wanted to belong and wanted. And the best medicine we can give is listen. So thank you.
You're welcome. I'm so glad it helped.
That's very
Beautiful.
true, though. I didn't even think about, all the skills that, I mean, I've never sat down and pondered the skills that I actually have from before I was married into this family business that we have. And I mean, I have a little banking experience like Cyndi, and I have some travel agency experience. So, so I've been actually pleasing customers my whole adult life, and I didn't even realize it until just now.
And you've been successful at it for years. So like I said, you're shifting into your entrepreneur. It's customer service. That's all it is. And you're great at it.
That's beautiful. Well, we're at the 1 hour point, and thank you everyone for those of you who contributed and to this conversation. For Molly, I adore you. Thank you so much for joining us, especially from Lake Chelan. Here your family's out romping and enjoying the sun and the beauty, and you're taking time to talk with us today. We really, really appreciate it. So I'll just leave everyone with, remember to make every connection an exceptional connection. And if you're listening to this as a replay, you're probably listening from our YouTube channel. So we ask you to subscribe, ring the bell, like, make comments, and then also tell your friends about this and take advantage of other conversations to connect that are on this playlist. So thanks for joining us. Signing off for now. Bye, everybody.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for joining us.